that's neither here or there, because today we are talking about Jurassic Park, the book written by Michael Crichton, and I do not need to impersonate any dinosaurs to talk about it. Luckily for both you and me. Hello, I'm Claire, and I like some books, but I learn from all of them. If you only want a short, non-spoilery review of the book, it's a solid book. I wish I would have been able to read it in 1990 when it came out, because while it is a very solid book, if you've ever seen the Jurassic Park movie and or you live in the 21st century, most of the tension that this book is trying to achieve by presenting you with new and amazing technologies, you will not be able to feel that. There will be no surprise except on how different some things turned out to be. But at least for me, the main tension while reading the book was derived from thinking about what they changed in the movie and why. So if you like the idea of dinosaurs in the modern day world, sorta, depends on how you define a 1989, but the book is a solid read. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. And now we come to the spoilers. Are there even spoilers if most of the world knows what this book is about? I have no idea, but I warned you. So to refresh your memory, in Jurassic Park, the book or the movie, you have an ambitious rich guy who wants to make a dinosaur-themed park with actual live dinosaurs. And that includes herbivores as well as carnivores. Rah! That part definitely was no foreshadowing at all. I'm not gonna go over the whole plot because for what I wanna take from this book, the plot isn't relevant at all. And I'm going to start with the main thing, and that is how the science slash magic is handled in this book. Because I think this is my absolutely favorite part as a reader, but even more so as a writer. Here's the thing. You know how they explain the whole thing, how they got the dino DNA from mosquitoes? Yes, but the point is they couldn't sequence the whole DNA, only parts of it. But to get a full dinosaur, you do need the full genome of a dino. So what they did is patch in some genes from the animals that are around today. Now this was a brilliant, magnificent plot point in the book because of 2 reasons. The first one, I'm so excited, I love this part. The first thing is that it enabled the whole plot thing that life finds a way, because they mixed in some frog DNA, so some of the embryos turned out to be male and not all female, so they were able to mate. So you get the in-story explanation of why certain things are happening. And the second thing you do with that is that you can describe these animals in however many details you possibly could want. And you can make them behave in whichever way you need them to behave for the plot. And it doesn't matter if at some point in the future you turn out to be wrong. It turns out that the dinos really didn't look like that, they didn't behave like that. None of it matters because you have already established that you did not use 100% of their DNA. So whatever changes there might be, you can always say, well, those changes were introduced by the rabbit DNA that we put in them. That's why they can jump so high. I'm also wearing a very appropriate shirt with a T-Rex that knows how to dance. I think this piece of world building is just mwah. It really allows this to be a sci-fi story, even though it's actually just magic. And there will never ever in the future come a point where you will be able to say, well, he was wrong on that. I think that's amazing. You even get an example of why implementing something like this into the book helps its longevity. And that is with the technology used. Of course, every time you read a book from the past, you cannot expect it to have foreseen the future and the technology advances as they were coming up. I think it's illogical and unrealistic to expect something like that from a book. Nobody can predict the future, so I don't hold it against the book that it didn't predict the future. However, I do like to take a look at how the technology in here is presented, because I think we can learn a lot from it. For example, I did laugh out loud when they came to a very modern computer. It was on the top of its game. It had, I kid you not, monitors that were big and in color. For example, if you would write a book now about 1989, what you would probably do is say specifically if a monitor was only black and white, or if it didn't have a graphical user interface. But in 1990, when the book came out, monitors that could display colors were rare. So it makes sense that the book would point it out. The monitor also has a touch screen. It has 5 buttons on its side that have infrared sensors, so when you hover over it with your finger, it will do a certain action. And in the book, that is called touchscreen. Again, this is not a criticism of the book, it made me laugh. I don't want to talk about the technology too much, because again, I think the book is really good, but I have to mention this as well. When they are talking about how they can track the dinos, and this is a plot point in the book, I was just like, well, they probably have GPS and that's it. Boy, was I wrong! They explain that they have cameras everywhere, and then they have dino recognition software that's running all the time so that they know at any given point in time where each of the animals is. And I think it's hilarious how we as humanity are completely incapable of accurately predicting how a technology will develop. In 1990, they probably didn't know anything about GPS. Everybody has GPS these days. And that is, in fact, how we track most of the animals that we track today, all over the world. But they thought that the dino recognition software was gonna be it. And meanwhile, we here in the 21st century still cannot make a computer differentiate between a bus and a drawing of a bus. I'm done with the techno rant now. Now I'm ready to talk about the book once again. And this thing is a criticism of the book. At moments, the book can seem kind of preachy. There is this one character who is delivering very strong monologues about what the author was trying to tell us. And there's a point where he famously says, the scientists were too preoccupied with how it could be done that they never stopped to wonder if they should. Which, is a fine sentiment in itself, but I feel it falls flat in this book because in the story, it's not the scientists who are pushing to create this Jurassic Park. Some of them are even advising against it, and it is capitalism and people wanting to profit out of this park. They are the ones who are pushing this whole idea forward. So I kind of feel that the book itself is undermining its own point. But yeah, I think the book actually makes a great point about how capitalism is ruining everything. But it's not presented as that, so I'm kind of conflicted on this. This is also mentioned in the book, the life finds a way thing, that I think the movie takes and then just runs with it, which I think was a good decision. But here in the book, it's not as prominent. As another criticism of the book is that at the end of the book, There is a scene, something regarding a raptor nest. They are going to investigate it. It doesn't make a lot of sense in book, and there's no mention of it in the movie. Rightfully so. The last thing I'm going to mention about the book is neither a criticism nor a positive thing. It just is, and I like to notice it. The female archaeologist in this book is written fairly well. I don't think she gets a point of view, ever, but she is written as a human being. There are even a couple of scenes that I liked when the males around her just ignore her or are surprised that she is a woman because she is an archaeologist. And you cannot be a woman and an archaeologist because those are two distinct groups. There's no overlap. Never. So the book smacks them for it, and I like that. I think, and this is just completely my reading things into the story that might not be there, and I have a feeling this is the author trying to write a good female character, and I think he done it fairly well. Where I see his hidden bias coming up, she is one of only 2 women in the whole book. There's the one little girl who's just annoying this whole time, and I would have a lot to say about her, but I am now intentionally leaving her out of the woman group. Because in the book versus the movie, there are quite a few characters mentioned who are kind of behind the scenes or, well, doing stuff outside of the park. Not well inside of the park. And there aren't any other women there. I can see that it is corporate America in the 80s, so like most of the board members would be males, but she couldn't put in another woman or 2 just somewhere. We do make up around 50% of the population. Anyways, the book is good. If you like dinos, give it a read or a listen. It was a good listen. Until the next time you click on one of my videos, bye bye. And I hope none of my dinos will eat me before I give them back to their rightful owner. Rah. Rah. Rah.